This week in Pure Reinvention.
The timing was perfect. I saw the need, and I decided to take the chance and do it.
Episode 124, Danielle Smith, owner, Detroit Made.
Engage, disrupt, adapt, repeat. You're listening to Pure Reinvention, the podcast for curious people.
Welcome to this episode of Pure Reinvention, where we create space for the unexpected by inspiring a reinvention lifestyle. So, Drew, as we continue in the month of May with ownership, Danielle Smith has taught us some things about what it really means to be an owner, hasn't she?
Yes, she talks about owning her idea and then owning the ability to move forward and get started with it.
So let's talk really quickly about owning the idea. What does owning the idea mean?
Well, for Danielle, it means taking a calculated risk and being very methodical in reaching the decision she made to open this company.
Yep. So I would encourage people to listen for how she took that methodical approach to not just throwing it out there, but really researching and understanding and organizing and getting herself ready. And then, Drew, there was one more critical point that Danielle got to when she had to decide whether she was going to own it or not, wasn't there?
Yes, and as part of her business planning group, someone came to her and said, "Hey, are you operating yet? I know somebody that needs maid services."
And she had to
move forward. She had to jump off that cliff.
She had to decide. Mm-hmm. She had to own whether she was ready to move to the next step. Mm-hmm. Let's listen.
This week's episode is sponsored by MB Strategies. MB Strategies focuses on your success and provides you with sustainable results by identifying opportunities, guiding you through implementation, and navigating you to greater results. Contact MB Strategies today at mbstrategiesllc.com to start your reinvention journey.
We are so excited today to be welcoming Danielle Smith, owner of Detroit Made. Thank you for being here, Danielle.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are very excited to have this conversation today because I think the subject you're going to walk us through is of a great interest to a lot of our listeners. So before we get started, let's go through the same 3 questions we ask all of our podcast guests. Of the 5 steps in the reinvention process, which step do you most closely associate yourself with?
Definitely own.
Okay, and we're going to come back and talk more about that if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
And Danielle, what would you call your superpower?
I think my ability to multitask would be what I consider to be a superpower.
Sure,
for sure.
Getting lots of things done all at the same time.
Yeah, I think I had a lot of pivots and a lot of chances to get do-overs to really master being able to manage a few different priorities at a time.
From time to time, we all find ourselves in situations which are somewhat uncomfortable. Can you describe a time most recently where you found yourself a little uncomfortable?
Sure. Actually, yeah, just this morning, we had more client requests than staff. And every client had an emergency. Every client wanted to be able to have us visit their home as soon as possible. And I had to make the decision that was sort of, obviously, we're very client focused, but also don't want to burn out our team. So it was just, hard to make a difficult decision to say no. I hate to say no.
Sure.
So I would say having to say no and offer the next best alternative to clients who we really, we value every single client, and to have to make that choice was a little bit difficult.
Thank God for your superpower, so you could juggle all of those multi-dimensional needs. So that brings me to this point. You are the owner,
yes,
founder, and Detroit Made is an entrepreneurial startup.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what your company is and why you decided to enter into being an entrepreneur.
Sure, absolutely. So Detroit Made is 4 years old. Actually, we just celebrated our 4th anniversary a little less than a month ago. And honestly, it was born out of frustration. I was born and raised in Detroit. I love the city. And I noticed that we haven't always had the same amenities that other major cities have had. And a few years ago, just about 5 years ago, I was overworked. I was trying to manage my career, manage family, social life, and it was really, really difficult. And the last thing that I wanted to do when I got home from, an 11-hour day was to clean. And I had a really hard time finding someone who would come to the city. So we called quite a few people. Most of the people at my first stop was to look in the city. Didn't have any luck, didn't find a cleaning service that really met my needs. I'm just barely a millennial and I like quick, accessible things. So if there's an app for it, I want to use it and I want to get it fast. And I wasn't able to find that. So then I looked to the suburbs and they wouldn't come into the city. So, and this happened to come, it was sort of a perfect storm because at that time I was thinking, I really want to do something different. I really want something of my own. I just don't know what that is. I even took an inventory that had the most random, every skill set I thought I had, I put it on that list. I'm like, I think I might be able to sing okay. I do this, I do that. I don't know. I just want to do something. And the timing was perfect. I saw the need and I decided to take the chance and do it. So I took classes at the Build Institute, which really gave me the confidence to really go for it. And they helped me to develop the business plan. And then about 3 months later, I actually started the business.
So you started talking about the really most important critical step towards moving a project forward, and that is getting started.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And owning that journey.
Mm-hmm.
So can you walk me through some of the realities that went into your thought process as you were making the critical decision to invest your own money, to really make this vision into a more practical reality and to really get started and own the next phase of this project?
Absolutely. So I think developing the business plan was one of the things that made me feel the most secure, to be able to, really have a forecast for, okay, so if I put this much into it, I should be able to yield this much in this amount of time. And it helped me to feel a little bit more comfortable.
So actually break down and put in writing what this thing was that you were envisioning.
Absolutely. And it didn't happen all at once. It was sort of, the first part was sort of the warm and fuzzy part, the vision board part.
Right.
Like, I want to be an entrepreneur. This will be great. Put it on my vision board. Like it was really important for me to have that moment and that time to, put Post-its on the wall, like you're an entrepreneur, that sort of warm and fuzzy stuff. But then I had to kind of put some meat on it and make it actionable and measurable. And so that's when I started to work on the business plan just a little bit every single day. And then when I connected with the Build Institute, they really supported that, just really developing the business plan. I've always been sort of averse to math and science. And when I started to really, jump into the business, being averse to that sort of thing wasn't an option anymore because I had to focus on, cash flow and I had to be able to map things out. And so when I was able to determine my startup costs, which were self-funded, they were very low, it made me feel a lot more comfortable. I was one of those people who was really nervous about that sort of thing. And I wanted to feel as secure as possible before taking that leap. And I do think it's important to note that all entrepreneurs aren't the same. And I love to hear the stories about entrepreneurs who are like, I risked it all. I just walked off. I did it. I had $0 and I made it happen. And I love those stories. And I also love stories that are calculated. And I love stories there's so many different stories. And I feel like sometimes we see entrepreneurs in one way. And even as entrepreneurs in the entrepreneurial space and in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, we're taught that a real entrepreneur couldn't care less about risk, and a real entrepreneur just goes for it and they love to mingle and do all these things. Well, I happen to be an entrepreneur to the core that needs to calculate every last detail.
I want to de-risk this a little bit so that I'm not totally
mitigate
out
the risk.
there.
Yeah, and I'm not averse to risk because I think it's important, but as calculated and strategic as I can be, I want to be that.
Danielle, what do you think is holding back most people? Because it seems like in the world today and the economy today, the time is right to do a lot of this kind of work.
Particularly in Detroit. I think one of the biggest fears all over is a fear of failure, which is, it can be paralyzing. I had it. I think, a lot of my peers have it or have had it, and it's a real thing. And I think when we sort of break down what failure is and kind of make it less of a scary thing, I think the perceived risk is less and you're more inclined to take that step. And I think that each of us has a different approach and a different path. And whatever equips us to be able to take that leap, we need to just go for it. For me, it was mapping it out. But for someone else, it might be a different thing. Yeah.
So for you, let me make sure I understand this right. For you, what made you feel more comfortable was actually putting a pen to paper and actually drawing what your house was going to look like so that you could visualize and envision. And actually, did you kind of in your mind start to go into that space so you could actually walk through what you saw, what your eyes saw on paper?
Absolutely. I felt like once it was on paper, it became a little more real. And once I did just a little something each day, I mean, it was each day, one day I might have just added a paragraph to the business plan. Another day might have been a few networking calls, and another day might have been research on the industry. But each day I just took a step a little bit closer and a little bit closer. And then I had some pivots and some stalls. I was in the build class. I graduated from the class. And then for a moment, I thought, is this, do I really want to do this? I'm not sure. And a classmate actually said, I know somebody who's really looking for cleaning service. Have you started yet? And I thought, well, kind of no. But I was like, yep, now we have, and that was really a catalyst because I was, maybe a couple of months. And I thought, I don't know if I'm ready. And I had to get ready. When I was the first employee, it was just me. And then within a couple of months, I hired, the next person. And the goal was always to be able to grow the business while I was working a 9 to 5.
So Danielle, I want you to, again, go through this very important step, which I heard, which was you visualized it, you surrounded yourself with others who were having the same thoughts. But it wasn't until you reached the tipping point.
Absolutely.
That you really made the decision to write the check and to get in.
Absolutely.
Would you go through us really kind of intimately what was in your mind as this tipping point hit, that you were presented with the door to really walk in and have a customer and really get this rolling? And at that point, you could have said yes, or you could have said no. And that would have been a very defining time.
Yeah.
What made you say yes?
I think the fact that my peers, which were, and again, I can't stress enough how important that support, that network has been and still is. But when my peers sort of created that demand, I felt like, wow, maybe there's something to this. Maybe this isn't just sort of my fly-by-night idea. And I can distinctly remember starting at the Build Institute and going around the table, and each of the members of the class had all these amazing ideas. It was like, I'm going to start an app. I'm going to open a restaurant. I'm going to do this and that, and all these things that were so amazing. And I was really kind of embarrassed. I really thought, what are they going to think when, I'm here to take this class and I say, I want to clean toilets? It doesn't have the same. But in all
reality, your idea had probably more immediate traction than all of those other ideas.
It worked really well for our space. Yeah, it worked really well. Having that and to get such positive feedback after being so nervous to actually say it out loud really helped. And then from that point on, the support that came after that was it was amazing.
So you're building a really strong case that the tipping point of having some business was actually preceded with having a very robust support network.
Absolutely.
That really was the foundation.
Absolutely.
So if an entrepreneur is or someone is looking to make a significant change, walk us through the importance of the support network.
Oh, wow. I think that sometimes we can doubt ourselves, or that fear can start to creep up. And I think that a lot of ideas die in that space without support, without someone, whether it's a family member or a peer or someone that you love and trust, to say, hey, tell me more about that thing that you had an idea about. Explain it to me. They might not have a clue. You might have this amazing idea for an invention or a project or a business. And if you don't articulate it, it's going to die, because we're human and we naturally have doubts about our abilities and our opportunities to grow and for success. So I think that a combination of sort of articulating that vision and putting yourself in the space to be around people that'll support it is really crucial, because I know that had I not articulated what I wanted and shared it with people that I felt were supportive, I definitely would not be a business owner right now.
Danielle, tell us a little bit more about Detroit Made.
Sure.
And how people can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. So we're a residential and commercial cleaning service. We're based in Detroit. We provide service through the entire city. We do have some suburban clients that are about 20% of our client base. We offer green cleaning, vacancy cleanings, and just a variety of basic and traditional methods of cleaning. So we clean apartments of any size, we clean homes of any size, and we clean small and medium commercial spaces.
And how do individuals get a hold of you?
So they can reach us at a few different ways. There's DetroitMade.us, where they can actually book an appointment at any time. And then they can also reach us by calling 313-444-2027. Or they can email me at Danielle@DetroitMade.us.
So you do have an app.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, the app is in development right now. So we've had an app for a few years, and now we're trying to make it a bit more robust than it has been. So it's still in development to make it more robust.
And what percent of your business do you think you will book through your app?
You know what? I'm anticipating about a 40% growth. The basic app has done really well. Traditionally, it's been sort of just a basic extension of the website. So I'm looking forward to it being a lot more robust and really simplifying things for the client. So I think with that ease of use, we're going to see a lot of growth. And we're also expanding to Canton in April. So if you do have listeners in that area, we will be there very soon.
You are amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I don't even think Danielle Smith realizes, Drew, what kind of an inspiration she is to people who are going to listen to her journey. So many wonderful and valuable lessons in there. And we kind of teed everybody up in the intro for some things to listen for. So let's kind of loop back and maybe go a little bit deeper in how Danielle was able to kind of coin the phrase owning the idea.
Well, she took a very deliberate steps to evaluate. And as she mentioned, she looked at a number of different opportunities. She was, out of frustration with the work she was doing and knowing she wanted to do something different. She didn't jump at the first idea she had, and working with the Build Institute was able to develop a business plan and get support she needed to move forward.
I think that sometimes there's this thought that if you're going to own something, you have to throw a bunch of stuff up to the wall and see what sticks. And I think what Danielle has taught us is that by focusing in on a more specific thing to own, Drew, very much similar to your strategic plan where you were able to narrow the focus to things you could do. By narrowing her focus and being able to then understand and own what she was going to move forward, she then took those very deliberate steps of working with the Build Institute, which she was very proud of to talk about, which helped her really understand from the things she did not know how to organize her thoughts into creating movement.
Yes, being an entrepreneur doesn't necessarily mean you just throw an idea against the wall and move forward with it. She was very calculating, I think.
Yeah, very deliberate. Yeah.
Very deliberate, and had conversations with a number of people and was able to talk about maybe it's her elevator speech of what it was she was thinking of going into. And so garnered support, and I suspect guidance from those close to her or those expressing some interest, including her peers and her classes. And I think that's important because it showed her there was a demand out there for those services she was contemplating.
Well, I found, and we were talking to Danielle, I found her to be very engaging, smiled easily, very friendly, but I did not find her to be a huge risk taker, that she was just going to do it and not think. Mm-hmm. And so she was able to then talk about an approach which included kind of organizing herself and getting ready. But I think the true test of ownership comes about when you have to decide if what you've organized into an action plan, you're really going to put action to it.
It sounded like she had done enough work towards mitigating risk for herself, or what she felt was risk. Yeah. And it was just that one next step she needed to take the leap when someone said, "When are you starting your company?"
I think everybody has the capacity to kind of get ready. I sometimes think few have the ability to take that big step, and she did.
I think she was well prepared, and she had to satisfy her own needs as far as what did she have to know ahead of time, which may be twice as much, 4 times as much as another individual. She was at ease that this was the right decision for her and was the right time to make it.
But it still doesn't change the fact that if you're going to go, you have to go, right? And for even if you de-risk it like Danielle had done, it's still scary to take that first step.
I think she alleviated most of her concerns. And though when it appeared that she was going to have her first client, that kind of was the last nail.
Last step to move forward with. Actually, that's a really interesting approach, Drew, that you just talked about. Instead of focusing on the last step and wondering whether you can handle it, it really was just the next logical step.
Right.
So once you create a sequence of steps, one shouldn't be any bigger than the other. It should just lead to the eventuality that this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
And it becomes almost like, well, this is the next logical step. And sure, it's different, but really all the steps were different.
And I think they're different for everyone, is your ability to own your decision for her was very strategic method to get to that end point.
So what Danielle taught us was that if you can deliberately approach this in a way that creates the kinds of steps that you can digest one at a time, take one on, figure it out, go to the next one, keep moving forward, right? Until eventually you're able to complete and get into the market, get into revenue. And she made all the steps important to her so that when she got to the end steps, she was ready.
Well, and I think that is shown in the beginning when you asked about an uncomfortable situation. And it was that day when she had more clients than she could serve. And that is a very difficult to say no to someone, but she knew that quality wouldn't be there and she had to do that. So that to me is the total ownership package, is she knows what she can do and will do it well.
Absolute wonderful lessons from Danielle. If you're ready for a change, make it a change that lasts. Make it pure reinvention.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Pure Reinvention. Keep the conversation going and get alerts when new podcasts are up by following us on Twitter @Pure Reinvention or sign up for our mailing list at purereinvention.com.